Hey folks, how you doing? Hopefully you're all having a great day today. I am coming to you live from a shadow so we can see the excavator working in the background. A bunch of updates. Life has been so busy and fun and just awesome lately. But I've got 2 pages of stuff to talk about just to touch base on everything, right? So we're going to start with electricity. All right, we're going to do the driveway and the electricity at the same time. So this is a brand new culvert installed by the county. So we're outside the city limits, and the county will install new culverts on new property. They won't replace failing culverts on existing property, but they will install new ones. So this is a 30-foot culvert right here and a 30-foot culvert over there. We have a little bit of a loop area near the road that we have plans for up there. I'm not going to get into that today. But I was presented with the option. I wanted the maximum width for this culvert, and they said they could go 40 feet wide as the max. And the way they do that is they only buy 30-foot culverts. So they would take 2 culverts and cars coming and cut 10 feet off. So that way they have 40-foot culvert with a 30 and a 10. And they said, well, if we're gonna get 2 30s, we'll give you the option of 2 30s or 140. And I said, give me 2 30s. So we have 2 30s here provided by the county. That's one of the only awesome benefits of establishing new land, is they'll provide this right here. That's just it. Now, electricity, we have a pole right here at the driveway, and 2 options for electricity: above ground, below ground. Obviously above ground we're not gonna do, because I'm not parting ways with these trees. If we come off this pole right here, we're gonna have to take down, basically no matter what, this big monster hardwood tree. Not quite sure if that's an oak or not. I think it is. Anyway, this big monster tree I don't want to part with. This one right here I don't want to part with. There's another one up there I don't want to part with. So above ground is basically out of the question, which means we're going underground, and we're going to start at this pole, coming underground at this driveway, and it starts on the right, but it will go straight as the road goes, as the driveway goes to your right. It'll go straight and it'll cross, and it'll eventually end up on the left side. So let me just as a means of updating the driveway as well, let's go for a little bit of a ride. I took the windshield off so we could actually see. So right here at the top of this little hill in the entrance, a couple things. This turnaround drive at this tree was such a good move. When I said in previous video, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, that just screams it's a circle drive. It's a circle right here, turnaround. This has been super handy for us. Way up, let's see, I guess, I don't know if I'm pointing to it correctly, not this pine tree, but the one off in the distance as the road turns. That was the entrance to the perimeter trail along this side. However, we don't want to destroy the ditch area right there and waller that out, so we cut that, we extended that trail over to here. You see this right here? This is some electrical conduit in the ground that I have yet to pull out of the driveway. But we found this and we thought, what in the world does it go to? So we traced it back over there near the fence line on our property is an old water well. Unfortunately, it's all destroyed. Just the casing is sticking out of the ground, but the casing is completely full. And I spoke with a well driller, and he said it's pretty much pointless at this point. There's not much you could do to save it. And of course, even if I did save it, there's no electricity right over there. I don't know where this originally went that way, maybe to that house over there. I'm not exactly sure, but this is all unusable stuff. Just figured I'd mention it. So the driveway is crowned and it just needs gravel. Well, it needs to be packed a little bit and then gravel. So the electricity is going to be on the right side all the way up to this first turn. think I passed it. The first junction box for the electricity is over here. Right there. So this white spray paint on the ground is the first junction box for the electricity. They can only go 500 feet at a time underground before they have to do a junction box. The driveway is 1,500 feet. So there's going to be 2 junction boxes in the middle of the driveway as far as the length of it, and then 1 at the final destination. Still got to clean up all this stuff, obviously. Right up there on the right is the entrance to the perimeter trail going that way. That trail, I'll talk about the trails. I'll talk about the trails too, but that's my favorite trail by far. I did a complete walkthrough on this one already. That's the north side of the perimeter trail. I love that trail. It's a lot of fun. The right side is higher than the left side, so we had to put this culvert in. This side of the culvert still needs to be smashed down a little bit and cut off, so it's not complete, but this did a tremendous job, a huge improvement in getting the water from over here over there. This is the final turn before we get to the 2-acre clearing, and that white spray paint spot right there is the last in driveway electrical. I'm not sure where that left off, but I'm fighting horrible GoPro batteries right now. This is the last sweeping curve in the driveway going to the 2 acres, and that's the last electrical connection box in the driveway. The final destination has 1 more up here. Now right here is the final destination for the electrical. This is going to supply enough electricity to have a 200 amp service on the house and a 200 amp service on the shop. It wasn't originally planned this way, but both the house and the shop will be inside this 2-acre clearing. It's obviously not done, but all the pines and all the stuff is cleared on this side of the brush pile, so it's going to be a windrow kind of a burn right there. And on the back side you can see these pines that are still up. All the underbrush below is cleared off. We just need to knock these down and stack them. Now as far as this wood goes, there's nothing I can do about it. I have to burn all these. I can't slow down the excavator guy to get in here and actually cut these up because his schedule's not working that way, and I don't want to pay extra to have him waiting around. So, and I don't have honestly, I don't have the time to cut up all these logs. So what should I try and sell these? The pine market's absolutely trash here. Everybody wants these for free, and when they want them for free, they want you to load them up. No one wants to actually cut them up and take them. So it just sucks. I'm going to lose about 2 acres worth of material here, but I mean, it is what it is, and you got to move on. So that's the situation with the logs. Going solar was completely out of the question. I'm personally not a big fan of solar. There's a lot of problems with disposing of solar batteries and solar panels, and I'm just not a big fan of solar electricity just yet. Also, we get a lot of hail around here from the weather, and I just read a story about a massive solar farm in Texas got decimated from hail, and tree going down. Can you see it? Kaboom. All right, cool. I'm not a fan of solar. Hail problems, blah 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 blah. I just don't want to go solar. So solar's out of the question. Now, above ground versus below ground for electricity. Above ground, I believe the last time I checked for prices, I used a different electric association for their prices, not realizing our property where we're in now, this property is in a different electric association from where our camp is. So with those prices in mind, above ground electricity would be about $4,000 or $5,000. I would have to lose a bunch of trees, and I would be responsible for all of the power lines coming through the property. So if anything falls on them, well, that's another problem. So for that reason, we're going underground. Underground is expensive. Underground electricity, you have to sell a body part. Just kidding, but kind of, sort of, not really. It's expensive to go underground, and we weren't anticipating this. That's the very first major unexpected expense. You know, you're doing big projects like this. Everyone says you're going to go over budget and you're going to go over time. Well, for us, this was the first big major expense that we had to kind of shift priorities around. And every time we have these little problems with money, we're basically robbing from our future because we refuse to go into debt for any of this stuff. So we have a set budget for all of this stuff, and we're trying to be extremely disciplined to stay out of debt to make this dream a reality. So the total cost for electricity to run it to this property, this 2-acre clearing, not including running electricity from that drop or that box to the shop, not including the electricity inside the shop, is $15,000, specifically $14,899.81. That sucks, but ultimately, long-term solution, I think that's the best way to go. It'll preserve the natural beauty of all the trees that we have on the property, from the power lines to the property, to this 2-acre clearing. I keep calling this 2-acre clearing the property, but it's 2 acres in the middle of 101 acres, which is, that's exciting. With the electricity, they're going to prep. I don't know if they're going to actually run, but they're going to put another conduit in there for fiber internet. The Electric Association everywhere in Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken, has contracts with the government. I don't know how all that works, but all of the electric providers are now providing fiber internet. And where we're camping, we have fiber internet in our camper, which is just wild. Just wild. So we're gonna have fiber internet here on the property. Now it's all the electric and fiber is gonna go to a termination box on the property, and then I will be responsible for underground to the house to the shop. So am I gonna run fiber to both the house and the shop? Yes and no. I'm gonna run fiber to the shop because we're gonna be in the shop for a good probably 2 years. We're going to be in the shop, that's exciting, for a good 2 years or so before we actually start building the house. So I want to have fiber in the shop. But once the house is built, I'm going to transfer the service to the house. There's no need to have internet in both facilities. So the infrastructure will be there, but at that point we'll only have service in one of the facilities, the house. What's the water plan? So we're not 100% sure on water, but we're okay with all 3 options. So if we can figure out a path from the road through the driveway. Now, water and electricity, the utility companies, we must have those 2 services 4 feet apart. They cannot be that close. Well, the electricity starts on the right side of the driveway and switches to the left side of the driveway so it can be on the south side of this clearing. And if that's the case, for us to get city water, we will have to come in on the border of our neighboring property, the property next to us. We'll have to be on our side of the land, but just inside the fence, clear out a little bit of a clearing and pipe it to the north side trail, and then trench it on the north side perimeter trail to the north side clearing of this clearing. So that direction, due right of where the camera is the south side of the clearing, and that's where the electricity is coming in on. And then on both northwest and northeast corners of this clearing are trail entrances. I'm actually at the entrance of one of the trails leading out of this clearing. And then over there is another entrance that connects to the north side trail. So if we go with city water, we will have to be responsible for piping it in all the way through here, and we'll go through the trail. Rent some type of ditch witch, or maybe purchase a small, you know, like a Briggs & Stratton powered mini excavator, just enough to dig this trench and maybe a little bit extra. I'm not exactly sure what equipment I will be using if we go that route, but I'll be responsible for piping all this back here. And that's actually beneficial to go through the trail because we'll have electricity on the south side, water on the north side. They'll never even be remotely close to one another. And that's the plan for city water. Now, if city water is out of the question, which we're leaning towards it being our route, but if we decide that, you know what, we don't want to make an extra cut through real close to our neighboring property, a well is still in the cards, but we don't know if we want to justify the expense just yet, because around here we talked to a couple different well people, and they said you're kind of on the border of there's multiple aquifers where we're at. You're kind of on the border of which one you can get into, and some wells around here have a depth of around 250 feet. Other wells you have to go into the 400s to actually hit a good source of water. So if it's in the 400s, he said you're looking at about $20,000, which from everything that I've read throughout the country, that doesn't sound like a lot to get a well dug, but it's still $20,000 that we may not have to spend if we go with city water, which should be around the $4,000 range. I'm not exactly sure. Now, that's the one thing that we're kind of debating on, because we would have to pull money elsewhere. We have a couple investments that we really don't want to touch, but we can if necessary, and I really don't want to, right? So that's the second option for water. And the third option, which we're probably going to do no matter what, it's just a matter of can we kick this can down the road, is I want to do rainwater harvesting on every one of the structures up here that we make. Now again, that might be something we kick the can down the road, but water is such a valuable resource. We get 55 to 60 inches of rain per year. If I'm not mistaken, maybe it's 50 to 60 inches of rain per year in North Mississippi. It's a pretty wet climate where we're at. We have this natural resource of water falling from the sky. Why not use it wherever we can? I'm 100% sure we are going to do it on the barn, because the barn's going to be roughly a 40 by 60 structure. I think maybe it's a 40 by 40 we end up with. Anyway, it's a lot of roof surface area that we should be catching so we can use it for use with livestock or horses or whatever. So eventually, yes, we will have rainwater harvesting, but I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be our primary source. I love the idea of it. And I know that people do that out in like Arizona and New Mexico, where you get like, what, 10 to 15 inches of rain per year. So if they can do it out there with that amount of rain, we can definitely do it here without question with the 50 to 60 inches of rain that we get per year. I've mentioned that to friends and family around here, and that's the one thing that I mention to people, and they're like looking at me like I'm absolutely insane, which they do a lot anyway. They do that a lot anyway because we're kind of not ordinary lifestyle people anyway. We kind of do our own thing and stay away from trends just because we don't gravitate that way. Anyway, that's another story. So rainwater harvesting is plan C, and all A, B, and C plans are still in the cards. We're not exactly sure. The 2-acre status, right? So it was a while ago that I showed we're starting to clear 2 acres. And as you can see right now, he's working in the back and the 2 acres isn't cleared yet. So what in the world happened? Well, again, everyone said that when you take on bigger projects like this, expect delays and expect to be over budget. Thankfully, with this excavating side of things, we're not over budget with it, but we're way destroying our timeline. This is taking way longer than expected for two main reasons. Number one, when it first started, it was still the rainy season here in Mississippi. The summertime, we normally have a really long drought. Last year's drought ended up being like 3 or 4 months. And of those 3 or 4 months, I believe 3 of them, probably a good 80% of the time, we were in a burn ban because it was so dry here. But we've started another little drought right when stuff breaks on the excavator. Wow, the sun's killing me. It's yelling at me to put the ND filter on, which will probably make it too dark when the clouds come out. ND filter warning went away. So he was trying to work occasionally here and there in between the rain, because the problem wasn't the rain. The problem was the rain saturating the ground. So it would rain heavily for 2 days, and then it would take 3 or 4 days of no rain in order to get back here. You're back here for 1 day, and then it rains again. That sucks. So we had a 1 week stretch of beautiful weather, and he's working a couple days and getting a lot done fast, especially on the driveway. And then the very last day of good weather on that particular stretch, he broke the pin on the thumb of his excavator, and something else was broken on the excavator, and busted a hydraulic line underneath the floorboard of his dozer, all within like 4 hours. The same working day, he broke both machines. Luckily, there was not a fire on the dozer. He had to limp that out of here, leaking fluid all over the place. And then, of course, he took the excavator out to get it repaired. And those are things that you just can't control. You can't be mad at the guy for, situations like that. So it took about 2 weeks to get the machines back up and running. And during that 2 weeks, guess what happened? No rain. Absolutely perfect weather, and we can't make much progress. So I'm trying to get this, record content based around variety of things going on with him working on the driveway and the 2 acres here, and me working on tractor stuff with establishing the infrastructure with trails and whatnot. And then it just turned into, I'm doing the exact same thing every day. It's extremely mundane, and I just stopped recording for a little while because of the machines breaking. I was left with one thing to basically record that I had to get done, or I want to get done, which is trail work. So it just kind of got a little bit mundane with what I'm trying to record. But obviously, we're back to work now. So let me break right here and jump into some trail information, some trail updates, because I did a tremendous amount of trail stuff while this was on a hiatus. While this was on a big pause. This is the far end of the 2 acre clearing, and there's probably a half to 3/4 of an acre of trail, of a section right here where there's trail all the way around it, and that's what we want to turn into a fruit orchard. So I'm going to drive over here. So all of this was completely overgrown, dense vegetation, and we're starting to clear it manually. So not using an excavator, not using a dozer. We're cutting all these and saving some of the bigger hardwood stuff that's in here, but we're wood chipping everything else. And all of this right here, for the most part, all of this we want to eventually turn into a fruit orchard. We're gonna have the house, the shop, the sawmill, the chickens, and a few other things that I can't remember right now in that 2 acres. But directly behind me on this side will eventually be the barn. Somewhere over here will be the barn, and somewhere over there we're going to start clearing. And really, once the sawmill's up and running, at that point, then we will start clearing. That way I can utilize all of the material with very, very little waste. The smaller stuff will chip, the bigger stuff I'll cut into lumber and whatnot, usable materials. And yes, that's a tremendous amount of work. I understand that, but we like work and we have the rest of our lives. So there's that. But it's going to be really cool being able to go from the house, the shop, walk through a fruit orchard and pick as you go, to the barn to check in on cattle over there, and just so many long-term plans. This obviously isn't a snap your fingers and start planting fruit trees. This needs a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of work, but we're starting to put huge dents in all this just with sweat equity, and we're loving it. So future fruit orchard. Right over here is some more trails though. This land, I don't know how long this land has been used to commercially plant trees, but there is a tremendous amount of hidden drainage systems that we have discovered that have already been cut into the property, trails, ditches that are 100% obviously man-made. So here's one of them. This was our initial trail. This trail used to be an overgrown four-wheeler trail right here. And we just thought, looking at this right here, all right, it's a little bit of a washout, whatever. But upon further inspection, if you really see this, there's two ditches that cut off to the left right here. And we didn't really see this with all the overgrowth and growth up over, the small stuff over there. So we just drove over it so many times just thinking it was a washout. Well, when we stopped to think about it, holy smokes, that's a road going that way. So I started to clear that way, and sure enough, it's a fully established trail that all I had to do was clean up with a rotary cutter. So check this out. This was already here, just completely overgrown. I didn't take out any big trees. This was all small stuff that I cut with the rotary cutter. You know, it looked like small stuff like this. And as you can see, there's a ditch on either side of this elevated path in the middle. And then over here is a 4-foot deep ditch that was completely and obviously man-made, because it just terminates right there. So it wasn't, this does not look like erosion at all. So it's 100 acres, and we viewed the property 2 or 3 times before actually closing on it. And obviously when you're exploring, trying to purchase a property, you can't see it all. And what we found is there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4 of these trails that we uncovered and just cleaned up. And it's like, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Established trail with ditches on either side to get water away from the trail and keep it not muddy. So cool. This is the land. This land is like the gift that keeps on giving. Absolutely love it. As I'm driving to another one that I found, well, we come across this one that I've yet to clean up. There's 2 obvious drainage ditches, once again, on both sides of this trail in the middle. And as it goes this way, you can see the tall trees. There's no tall trees on this trail. All I have to do is clean it up, and I've got another trail. I'm excited about this one. I haven't gotten around to actually cleaning it up, but I'm really excited about this one because I think this is the straightest shot all the way to the creek. And right now, we currently have we finally made a second path to the creek that is, well, again, unearthing another trail that was already there. But the second path is finally a dry access all the way to the creek, even during wet weather, so we don't have to go through mud anymore at all. And this is, like I said, a straight shot all the way to the creek. And if I turn around 180 degrees, it curves back into this way, which right through there, where it looks like it goes, is the fork in the road. So coming this way is the initial fork, and we have the 2 initial trails that go left and right. Well, if I continue straight right through all this right here, I think it goes straight to the creek, which is exciting. This one is going to be exciting personally for me to uncover. But let's go to the one I was actually trying to show you. Here's the pond, and I know you can't see it too well from where I'm sitting, but I started cutting in a whole new trail around it. There was no trail here. This is something that I'm creating, and eventually I want to have a nice side-by-side accessible trail all the way around the pond. The pond isn't that big. It's like a half-acre pond, so that shouldn't be an issue at all, but cutting more trails. This is the worst part of the original trail. It's still accessible, but it's just so washed out. And while I was clearing around here, I noticed, you know what? Something through that bush over there looks like there's another trail. So I cut through here with the rotary cutter, trying to see if this was a new trail. Got through like, I don't know, 15, 20 feet of brush, and then I realized, oh yeah, there is another trail. Now this one doesn't have the drainage ditches on either side, but that's a trail, and it goes, and I can see where it goes further, but I just stopped basically where we can see right now. Okay, cool. Then I turn this way, and once again, there's 2 ditches on either side of a high spot in the middle. All the stuff that's grown up in the middle of here is a little bit too big for the rotary cutter, so I haven't gone that way. But if I turn around 180 degrees, which is left from when I first started coming in to this little offshoot, I found this, probably the best condition trail of any of the trails that I found. This one was already established again, and it's kind of hard to see, but there is a crown to the whole trail, so there is kind of a swale on either side, ditch, I guess you could say. When you get to the other side of the trail way down there, the ditches become a little bit more pronounced. So this was here. All I had to do was rotary cutter it, brush hog it. This is awesome. There's trails all through this property. But wait, there's more. Let's go right over here. So if I come over here, there's another offshoot that goes this way. So this property had to be like logged over and over and over again in order for them to take the time to establish all this. I think, I'm guessing anyway, I don't know how industrial logging works. Oh, I just walked into a huge spider web. Gross. So then this trail, I connected the dots over here. There wasn't a trail from here to the top of this plateau, but as soon as I stepped down off this plateau area, we're kind of in a taller flat spot that drops down maybe 5 feet right here. As soon as I drop down into this one, another spider web with a spider. Gross. As soon as I drop down into here, boom, we're back into a fully established trail that parallels another trail. And I'm like, this is crazy. There's an entire infrastructure of trails here that all I have to do is just simply find, because it's already established. It's just a little bit overgrown. So I'm actually going to backtrack to the side-by-side, which is over there somewhere, parallel what you see here, and then go to a spot where they connect. All this is completely new. So the new trail behind me that I just mentioned, like I said, the ditches become more pronounced at the other end of it. So this is the other end of it, and the ditches are very much more pronounced. But I start coming out this way and I'm thinking, what the heck? I have another fork in the road. So that's a brand new trail that wasn't existing the last time I documented all this stuff. That's another trail that wasn't there that now is, that connects right to the main trail. But here's something that's very interesting. There's 2 trails right here. I grew up in southeast Michigan, so I'm kind of nicknaming this Grand River, and some of you may understand what I'm talking about here. There's 2 trails that parallel all the way to another drainage ditch, and then they fork off in different directions, which is pretty cool. Now, in the middle of these 2 trails, I knocked all this down, messed up some irrigation. I got to do some work here, so don't yell at me. There was a barbed wire fence that came through here. Okay, that's interesting. Also, trash everywhere. There's a 5-gallon bucket of hydraulic oil I've yet to get out of here. We've been getting out so much trash. All right, so in between this avenue, right, the Grand River here, we have a berm in the middle. Now, this berm is flanked by a ditch on either side and then goes up on top of the trails on either side. So obviously 100% man-made. But how long ago did this happen? That's the interesting question. These ditches, I mean, these ditches are fully established, in my opinion, clearly man-made. But on this side, we've got old growth hardwoods and in the middle of the ditch. So the ditch came before these hardwoods. Was this a ditch, or did they simply berm up on that side, berm in the middle, and ditch this side? I don't know. Regardless, this trail infrastructure looks like it's been here for a long, long time. And then if I turn around this way, you can kind of see the ditches going this way once again. The trail I just came down on the side-by-side is over there. And then the one that had a plateau, you may not be able to tell, but I can see the plateau up there where I was just standing looking down onto this trail. So if I come through on this side, it's a full-blown trail. Like, it's nothing huge was in the way. All I had to do is bush hog this, or rotary cutter this, and find it all. Awesome. That goes and connects into the perimeter trail on the north side. So the perimeter trail loops back down and comes right through the middle of the property. This is so awesome. Like, I have a whole highway system on this property, and it's just, it's so cool. It's just so cool. I love it. I love it. Now this one, now remember I said that one goes to the north side perimeter trail. This side goes to that another irrigation ditch and goes that way directly to the spot where we absolutely love to interact with the creek. So we now have a highway system here on the property that allows us to convoy multiple vehicles back to the creek and have a good old time. We did that a couple weeks ago, that's why I bring that up. We had 3 side-by-sides and a four-wheeler and a trailer, and 12 of us going all back through the woods, through this little trail system, and oh man, it's just so much fun. Man, it's just so much fun. I wish I could have every one of you guys out there in the audience who's enjoying this with me. I wish every one of you guys could come out here. It's just, man, this is just so cool. I mean, the big kid in me is coming out, right? The Boy Scouts from my youth is coming out. I love it here. Absolutely love it here. And once the shop is up and running and I have all of this for recreation and then the shop to tinker with and do woodworking, man, life is good, friends. Life is so good right now. Let's go on another trail. Let's go down this way and I'll show you another trail that goes back to the creek. I want to say really quick, I keep starting and stopping this GoPro because I'm fighting GoPro batteries. I'm going to try and drive this all the way through, but I don't think it's going to last. So here goes nothing. We still have a lot of cleanup work to do here, like stuff that just overhangs the trails. I've got a lane shark coming. Actually, I think it's going to arrive today, so I'll be using a rotary cutter to clear up all this overgrowth on the top side. There's that parallel trail. That's the north side of Grand River. Now right here on the other side of this berm right here is another drainage ditch, and the other trail goes that way. There's a ditch in between and we're going this way. This trail was already here. All I did was clean it up with the rotary cutter. You can see this drainage ditch starts to get quite deep. This is where I think that it ties into what's naturally occurring. I don't think this is man-made. tight trees that I just drove through. I had to create all that because the natural trail from my left goes through this fallen tree, and I didn't want to disturb this fallen tree because they're not here right now, but underneath this tree is, I think they're baby hawks. They're giant birds that are clearly juvenile birds, but they're the size of a chicken. They're massive. Well, one day when I was driving up from the left to the right before this trail behind me was established, a hawk flew out of this bush, and this hawk was the biggest bird I've ever seen in my life up close. It's a huge hawk, just flew away. Well, since I've been coming back, there's two, like I said, what I think are juvenile hawks that live underneath this thing, and I don't want to bother them too much, so we stopped going over there. And of course, I didn't want to clear this tree out if they're using that as a home or anything. But kudzu is coming on the property, unfortunately, from the river, from the creek. But this is all overflowing with raspberries, some blackberries that we have been picking and eating and enjoying quite a bit of. Trying to see if there's any worth grabbing from where I'm sitting. I don't want to go too close to that. But anyway, this trail to the left, everything from the left here was already established. All I had to do was bush hog it. Well, rotary cutter it. I keep saying bush hog. Bush hog is a company. Rotary cutter is the implement. So this trail, this clearing was basically here, and this is where we start to get near the creek, and the hardwoods are just, oh, it's just awesome being on this side of the property. We're in a constant battle with vines. This right here, this Tarzan vine, is going up into that hardwood tree. I gotta get that cut. I may actually end up cutting that, at the very least get it cut today while I'm out here, to stop the growth. But I mean, this vine is insane, right? It's a huge vine. And yeah, I just stepped in poison ivy. I gotta wash my feet, or wash my leg rather. But this trail was already here, and it's obvious what is and isn't trail when you first notice something, because you can look through and see all the undergrowth, but you'll notice that there's no huge trees in this vicinity, so that's clearly a trail, right? If you go this way, there's huge trees scattered throughout. That's just natural hardwood regrowth or hardwood growth over there. On this side, it's just old stuff that hasn't been touched, never been touched, and even bigger over there. So on the creek, which is 2 drainage ditches over that way, this natural washout kind of forms an island. Now, it's not a water island, right? It's not surrounded by water, but as far as elevation goes, it's a plateau island, whatever you want to call it, that's surrounded by the creek on that side, and this really deep drainage that's obviously naturally occurring. So we can't access that from a utility vehicle standpoint. Maybe yet. I don't know if I'm going to build a bridge or something, but it gives an undisturbed ecosystem over there that's pretty fun to explore and see different tracks and wildlife, evidence of wildlife and whatnot. So there's so much going on. And then also this drainage ditch, whatever this is called, this washout, goes off to another entrance to the creek over there. There's 2 entrances to the creek based upon this washout, and that one's got the little bit of a waterfall that I was freaking out about not too long ago. But you know, we're talking about a 10-inch waterfall. It counts though. Up here in the corner is where we access the trail, access the creek. I'm going to turn off the GoPro and just zoom over there so I save battery, because I really want to show you that. All right, that's the original only entrance to the creek. That's really muddy, and we've been able to avoid that by this new trail behind me. This is the creek area. Property boundary, property corner is over there. this has been our recreational hangout that we get everyone together with, and it's just been so much fun. So there's the washout right there. There's another washout over there. This washout kind of snakes through the border of our property as well as that property over there. And I want to get some type of battery powered station out here with some medicine bulbs and make this kind of like a little bit better of a space to hang out with after the sun goes down. Because right now all we have is the fire pit. That's a Brio Y series fire pit. Fantastic fire pit. I love that thing. We've been cooking on it a lot. But basically we'll bring a table out here, some coolers, some battery powered fans. We have the adults hanging out up here, and then all the kids find their way down to the creek. Now this creek, oh, it's a frog. Something moved, got my attention. So this creek, I want to cut in some type of stair system to get down here, but look how much it's dried up, you guys. So I'll run a little quick video of when we were looking at this property back in February of this year, and it's currently June, the dry season right now, and look at the different water levels. So this is in February. You can see how much water is here. And now here, this is in June, and I'm walking down to the creek. We've cleared this and opened it up just a little bit, and it's not dry, but you obviously can't float on this. We've been walking up and down this whole creek system for quite a while. Mosquitoes are driving me nuts. And man, it's just so much fun being down here. It really is. We've got an endless supply, if we want to do the work getting them out of here, an endless supply of beautiful rocks. Once we get these, you know, sifted by size with some screens, we can utilize this resource here on the creek. And yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, unfortunately, we have way more kudzu on this property than what we initially thought we had. It is what it is. We're going to try and get rid of as much kudzu as we can continuously. That'll be an uphill battle, but eventually we'll get all the kudzu off this property. It all originates on this creek. And I got to get out of here because the mosquitoes aren't biting me. I've got bug spray on, but they keep flying around my eyes, driving me nuts. And they're bad around the creek. But isn't this cool? Like, this is such a fun place to hang out. Once we get everyone up here, everyone has their own little things that they bring. We all hang out. Last time we were here, we had 12 people, 2 guitars. Was it 5 or 6 of us were kids? And it's just, man, it's community. It's hanging out with people that you love to be around, and it's just so much fun. So much fun. All right, I'm gonna get out of here. Bugs are killing me. All right, I'm getting back on Grand River. I'm gonna go back to the crossing, get to the other side, and take you down that way. Back at the crossing that I cut in, we're gonna cross over here. And we're gonna go back down the same direction, but on this side. Right here's where Grand River stops, and it goes to both directions. Got to cross another little drainage something or other that's not really well established. I think this one's naturally occurring, but this one right here, I don't think that's naturally occurring at all. This looks like it was man-made. But this trail, huge tree again, by the way, this trail was already here. There was nothing tall right here. All I had to do was clean it up with the rotary cutter. Now you can see off in the distance maybe That's where the farm field above us, north of us, the agriculture field, the bean field as I call it, soybeans, you're starting to see it. Now remember, the other entrance to that field was way on the other side. We're on this side of that same field, approaching our north side perimeter. So here's where that drainage ditch kind of starts, and yeah, I don't know honestly if this is naturally occurring or man-made. It just, something about it looks natural, something about it looks man-made. But this way over here is the end of the perimeter trail that I started cutting with the piranha bar. I made the piranha bar northbound perimeter trail, or north side perimeter trail video. I stopped way over there. Well, I continued it from this side, connecting my dots that way. There's the property line, and there's another trail that goes into that agriculture field. Now, if you're coming through on that property, coming to our property, first thing you see is a no trespassing sign. Hopefully that'll deter some people. But this trail was loosely formed. It was super narrow, so you had to use a small, probably like an old 90s 250 or something like that, four-wheeler to get back here. Back when four-wheelers were small enough that you could pick them up and manhandle them with your body weight. Now four-wheelers are so darn heavy that you're just along for the ride. Spider webs, geez Louise. Anyway, this trail goes to the creek and kind of stops. We still have to continue it that way, but as you can tell, this is like Blair Witch Project over here. This is so dense. It's really hard for us to continue this trail. Not hard, it's just very labor intensive, so this is not a priority. Now if I turn around once again, like I said, the property line goes right here. You can see the pole and then the flags going that way. So I cut in a little bit of close to this tree so we can get real close without going on their property. I want to line some more fence posts this way to really stop us from going that way, so there's no excuses whatsoever about us accidentally being on that land, even if it is small. Because this trail, also like I was about to mention, leads to where I found the animal feeder and the tree climber set up over there. So that's all gone, and this was access to it. So posted, get out of here. And this is the trail going this way. I still have to do a lot of cleanup. Connecting the dots, I basically drove through here with the grapple and just kind of knocking them down and just kind of trying to get a path established. And then I'll come back and clear it up later. I'm not even... Yeah, let's go that way. Yes, let's go that way. This trail obviously needs a lot of work, but the lane is established. Now, speaking of lane, earlier when I talked about how these trails that are hidden have this ditch system on either side with a swell in the middle, or a platform in the middle, I guess you could say. That very first trail I showed you actually cuts through here and terminates onto this north trail. So another cut through connecting the two trail systems. Like I said, there's a whole road system in here that we're starting to uncover and then also modify to our needs. Up here, I'm still not to the point where I stopped that one day on that north side perimeter trail. Actually, right there it is. So this spot right here, where the sun's shining, this spot right here was where I stopped on this north side trail. Again, two ditches on this trail go that way, but it was just too wet for me to continue. So I'll probably continue that way once it all dries up, which it is dry now, once I have time to continue that trail that way. Once I have time to clean this up anyway, I guess that's the best way to say it. That's the rest of the north side perimeter trail that I hiked on video the other day, and this is the original trail that I widened out quite a bit, but I got to get that lane chart going and get all this stuff cleaned up. All this growth on the side starts to come in and get you from the top side. I've already cut most of this out, and it just grows so fast. I got to get it cut off closer to the tree source. All right, so this was the original trail. That is a trail over there that I showed you at the beginning. That's the 2-acre clearing, and this will be the fruit orchard. About 20 or 30 feet that way is where the fruit orchard would start, leaving us with this little cut-in trail. This little cut-in trail that goes to the 2-acre clearing. Oh, he's working. That's pretty cool. So I think I need to stop and set up a camera and get the excavator. Geez, spiders are crawling all over me now. But we've got trails everywhere. We've got plants all over the place. Fruit orchard here. I think, honestly, the shop was supposed to go here, but I think the shop's going to go on that side now, and the house is going to go over here. We've got it all mapped out, and it just continuously changes every... I've got a phone call coming in. Continuously changes every single time we discover new information. I got to get this call. So I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to edit this video, so if some of it is overlapping, I apologize. We do plan on doing a fruit orchard right next to this 2 acres that we're clearing, and we're doing that clearing all by ourselves, kind of taking our time with it, because I don't want to cut any of the big trees until I have a sawmill. I'm wasting lumber with this. I'm wasting materials with this. I want to be able to maximize the materials for everything else that we modify on this property. So the orchard is kind of that's always cool. The orchard is kind of a long-term work in progress for a couple reasons. Like I said, I want to keep the materials, but also because we're using all of the wood that's on here for the most part to chip it back onto the surface and develop and just further develop the natural soil that's here. This is going to be a huge experiment for us that's ongoing for the rest of our lives, I think. Obviously, I want to get it established as soon as possible, but we watched a documentary called, I think it's called Back to Eden documentary. It's about a different way of, a non-traditional way of gardening that's non-industrialized, I guess you could say, basically revolving around cover on top of the dirt, on top of the soil, to create a much more rich soil below it. So you only focus on cover. It's no till and no real digging. You plant right in the cover on top. And anyway, we watched the documentary, we love it, we want to try it, and that's our ongoing experiment with the fruit orchard. If you haven't already checked it out, go on over on YouTube and search for Back to Eden documentary. If not, I'll probably link it in the description so you can check it out easily. It really made us change the way we think about some stuff as far as growing stuff. So I'll leave it at that. So back to the trails that I've been working on with all this stuff. A lot of people had said, hey, show us another map. You started out with a map, show us another map. Well, I'm kind of hesitant on showing you guys a map because my map is incredibly detailed with all this stuff. And it's just basically like, hey, everybody out there in the world, come check out all of my infrastructure and come sabotage and all this crap, right? Like, there's some information I just don't want to be public. And the super in-depth detailed map, I kind of don't want to be public. I'm going to have it printed out big size in my shop, and I've got several other copies that we've had different versions of this map printed out and laminated because I want to have that as a timestamp of how this property evolved. I think that's going to be so awesome to see in a few years. But I honestly, I just don't want to put it out there. Now, here's one little caveat, and I'm considering this. Once all of the trail system is complete, man, the sun back and forth, clouds and no clouds. Who would have thought clouds exist? Once all the trail system is completely done, I've contemplated doing some type of little fundraiser to raffle off or sell naming rights, I guess you could say, right? Have all of the trails completed, have all the trails numbered and labeled, and then raffle off naming it. So if you wanted to support what we're doing, you could buy a raffle ticket, and if your ticket is drawn, then you get to name one of the trails. And when it's all said and done, I'm gonna have actual like road signs on all of these trails, and it'd be a fun way to have you guys kind of be engaged with it without actually being here in a sense. I don't know, I've tossed around that idea. Some people I pitched that to is like, no, it's not worth showing your map system. Other people are like, yeah, it's a fun way to engage with your audience and have them be a part of it forever, kind of a thing. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm on that little tippy toe line, undecided. I'm really undecided. Let me know. Let's talk about the shop. And the reason why I haven't talked about the shop is because I've flip-flopped so many times. And this is one of those things that the design is going to continuously evolve and change. Well, not the overall design, but the orientation on this. All the little details are going to change until I pull the trigger and it's just ready to go. So ultimately, the shell, I've decided 100% it's going to be a 40 by 60 shop. Twice the amount of square footage as my last shop, but it's going to have to do twice, double the duty. I'm going to have my last shop assembled essentially the same way on one side, and on the other side is kind of going to be metalworking, flex space, but also tractor space. And for the immediate use, that's where we're going to park the camper. The camper, without question, has to be parked inside the shop. This sun that I'm battling right now, because I want to show this and I don't want to be pushed off in the shade. This sun is brutal on our camper. Mississippi, the whole South United States, the sun in the summertime is just brutal. That's all there is to it. So our camper can just barely keep up. We have to close off the back door. We have a toy hauler bumper pole camper, like a super, super base model bumper pole toy hauler. In the back is where we have all of our, living stuff in this camper while we're camping long term. And it's also my office where the computer is. And in order for our AC to keep up, we have to shut off that door to that room and don't heat and cool it and only cool the front side. So I can only work on my computer before the sun comes up in the first couple hours of sunlight before I have to shut that off so the rest of the living space can cool. So without question, the camper 100% has to go in the shop. It could go under a roof, but I want it in the shop just for an extra door to close. You know what I'm saying? Like just an extra door to let our dogs run around outside the camper, not having to worry about a an animal at night, let the cat run around, give herself some more room. And then also, just for convenience sake, it's just going to be easier to heat and cool the camper inside there. We're also going to do a kitchenette and a small bathroom inside the shop, so we'll have like a house situation inside the shop, I guess. So there's that. There's the shop. It's going to be a red iron steel building with minimal insulation. I'm not going to go full blown with like with spray foam insulation. I really kind of sort of want to, but more than anything, I don't want the heating and cooling expense that comes with a 40 by 60 building. And then also, being outside on this property is an outdoorsman's paradise. We moved out here to be outside. Our lifestyle has been outside a tremendous amount more so than it has been the 5 years at our last property. And I want to continue that. Well, it's very discouraging to get back out in the heat if you're constantly sitting in air conditioning, right? So I'm okay. I have been okay working out here with no structure. I will be definitely okay inside of a structure with, at the very least, some insulation and a fan. If it gets too hot, I can go inside the camper and cool off. If it gets too cold, I can go inside the camper and heat up, warm up. So I don't think the new shop's going to be heated and cool. My wife wants it to be, but I'm not sure if we can do that. Number one, financially speaking, and number two, I'm not sure if I really want it. So there's that. The shop will have a 12 by 60 lean-to. I'm not sure if a 12-foot lean-to is enough though. Should I go 16 foot? Should I go 20 foot? Both of those will require me to pull funds out of another area. We're very, very strict with our budgeting on this. We have a very, very strict spreadsheet that we're pulling and moving stuff around, just again to try to stay out of debt as much as we can. Hopefully 100% stay out of debt. So I really want a 16 or 20 foot lean-to, but I'm not exactly sure financially if that's in the cards. But there will definitely be a lean-to along the 60 foot length of the shop. The shop will have one water in and one sewer out, but I'm going to incorporate this all below an elevated bathroom. So I'll have the bathroom on like a 3-foot platform, and that way I can have one sewer out, one water in, and then I can connect all the pieces above ground for connecting the sewer on the camper to the septic system, connecting the washer and dryer that we'll have to the water supply, as well as the drain, connecting the kitchenette to both the water supply and the drain. I could do all of that above ground inside and not have to worry about finalizing all of that 100% inside the concrete. Just have one in, one out, located below an elevated bathroom, so I have an access underneath it. That's the plan with the utilities inside the shop. Concrete inside the shop, gravel under the lean-to, just for financial reasons. Right now, under the lean-to, probably down the road, a few years from now, it may get concrete as well. I have a kind of a comedy kind of part here. It's funny to think about. This is one of those things that I'm going to look back on in 5 years or a couple years or maybe 5 months and just laugh at how miserable this has been. I've sabotaged my skin since we've been here. So I had to write all this down. When we first got here, I was super overconfident with poison ivy, and I've mentioned this in the past. I had a horrible poison ivy reaction, both arms, both legs. It was bad, it was miserable, it absolutely sucked. I also had chiggers during that time, chigger bites. If you're not familiar with what a chigger is, it's kind of like a tick, but very, very small. They typically bite in a pattern, so they'll bite you, move a little bit, bite you, move a little bit, and bite you. There's typically 3 bites, kind of sort of spaced close together, and chiggers, they suck. If you know what I'm talking about with chiggers, you know what I'm talking about. That was kind of a redundant statement there, but they're very, very annoying. I would rather put up with mosquitoes than chiggers. So I was covered with poison ivy and chiggers on my feet. Well, our camp location with the water supply is via a garden hose, a black garden hose. And is the excavator guy in the scene? There we go. So our water supply is with a black garden hose. Well, black retains heat. It gets a lot of heat. In the summertime, the sun started poking out, and our cold water supply has been boiling hot. So when you start the water for a shower, you just have 2 hot water sources. You have to let the hot water in the cold water system run out. Well, this was right around the time where I didn't realize that that's what was happening. So I just turned the water on, get in the shower, and I'm using warmer than normal water, not realizing it, to kind of relieve the itching of the chiggers and the poison ivy. And I'm not realizing it, but I'm burning myself. So then I actually had burns all over my legs. So poison ivy, chiggers, mosquito bites, and now burns on my legs. Miserable. All because of myself. This was all self-induced. So inadvertently burning with hot water for relief. And then I got a second round of poison ivy that I haven't really talked about, haven't had an opportunity to talk about. And that's from bush hogging or rotary cutting with the tractor. I'm out in the woods. There's no wind in the deep woods. I'm cutting a bunch of underbrush. A lot of it is poison ivy. But I'm on my tractor the entire time. A spider web just descended from the trees and caught my eye. I'm on the tractor the entire time, so I'm like, well, I'm not getting in this poison ivy, so I'm good. I'm good. Stirring up all kinds of dust that just floats in the air, right? Cutting poison ivy, dust floats in the air. Not connecting the dots at this time. And I'm on the tractor for 8-9 hours that day. 3 days in a row, I spent a lot of hours on the tractor just clearing stuff. And by the end of all 3 of those days, my arms are like so covered in dirt. Really, I look like I have a super duper tan. Covered in dirt. And I'm like, oh, it's just dirt. Well, not only is it dirt, it's clogging my pores, which I'll get into, and it's got that little oily dust from poison ivy. So that right there, I don't know if you can see it, that's the residual from what's left of poison ivy on my arm for the second time. I got some on my nose and on my head from when I was putting my hat on and off, scratching my nose. And then it's soaked in through the sweat on my shirt because my clothes by the end of the day are completely sweat saturated. So it soaks in and my whole belly is covered in poison ivy. So then I'm miserable with poison ivy. And because all that dirty sweat caked in on my pores, we also happen to have a huge spike in the temperature, and I got a nasty heat rash. I don't know if it's showing up, but this is just heat rash that I've been scratching because I'm a child and can't control myself and can't stop scratching. So this is heat rash over here. It's all over this arm. It's all over my neck on the back side. It's all over my underarms, all the way around my belly. It's a little bit on my knees. Heat rash. So we have, just to recap, 2 bouts of poison ivy, burns, only one that I've told you so far, 1 bout of burns, chiggers, mosquitoes, all kinds of crap. So then I'm on the tractor again, already miserable, covered up in long clothing, so I stopped the sunburns and whatnot. But the pants that I was wearing, I have a really nice set of long sleeve shirt and pants from Brunt Workwear. I'll post a link down in the description. Not being paid to say that by any means. I just finally found some long sleeve summertime protective clothing that I actually like. So I signed up for their affiliate network. I'll post the link down below anyway. Their pants that I got were black. So I'm on the tractor, and it's the situation of like, boiling frogs. If you put a frog into boiling water, they jump out immediately. It's hot, right? But you can slow boil frogs and they won't jump out. I believe that's how it works. I've never boiled frogs, but I guess it's a saying, slow boiling frogs. Well, I slow boiled my legs. I'm wearing these black pants, driving on the tractor, starting to clear out a lot of stuff, and the sun comes out during these hot days, and I have burns on my thighs from where the black pants just got too hot from the sun. And it was a situation where I'm like, yeah, I know it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's starting to get a little bit warm on my legs, but I'm okay continuing to work. Later that night, I looked down at my legs in the shower, and I'm like, holy crap, I burnt myself again. So then I got burns on my thighs. Is there anything else on this list? Yes, there's one more on this list. So at this point, I'm completely miserable. All my fault. Burns, chiggers, mosquitoes, heat rash, and poison ivy. Completely miserable. And then I'm outside cooking on the grill. The grill is blazing hot. So I'm like, heat from the grill. The sun's blazing on me, no shade. I'm trying to hurry up. I'm barefoot on a freshly cut lawn. We just cut our lawn at the camp where we're at. And I look down, something's bothering me on my feet. I look down, my feet are covered, both ankles all the way up, halfway up my calves by that point, covered in fire ants. So I'm freaking out with the grill, trying to flip the food, ow, something just bit me right now. Trying to freak out with not burning the food. The sun's baking me, the grill's hot. My feet are on fire from these ants, trying to get all this off. Eventually I just jumped over onto our little pathway, threw the tongs down, got my feet and socks or shoes and socks off, and I'm freaking out doing all this stuff, get back to the grill, and I'm still bouncing around because it's horrible. My wife comes out of the camper and just stares at me like a deer in headlights, has no idea what's going on, and are you okay? Like, what is going on? It was, I wish I could have recorded that because I know it would have been comical. So anyway, that's a huge section on this list because I think this is going to be one of those moments where I look back on in the future and I'm like, man, you remember that time when all this crap happened to my skin? Anyway, I think that's comical. Hopefully you got a little laugh out of me telling it. All right, equipment, right? So here's something that I wanted to address, not to complain, but just to set the record straight. I know everybody's got suggestions, so I'm not complaining. Several people had suggested or said that, you know what, you're not going to be happy until you get an old D4 dozer. At the time, what's a D4 dozer? I look it up and I'm like, oh man, yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that'd make me happy. It's out of the cards financially. I'm not getting a dozer by any means. Also, I don't like the mess that it creates. Yeah, it'll clear stuff out, but it creates a mess. I'm not interested in a dozer mess unless it's somebody else doing the work and doing the cleanup. So a dozer, out of the question, even if it is a smaller, used, older model. You need to buy a mini excavator. No kidding, I'm with you, 100%. I watch videos of other people using mini excavators around the property, handling firewood, handling logs, forestry type stuff, just general homestead type stuff. I don't know if that's getting too loud, but he's doing some work, that's for sure. I absolutely agree with you. A mini excavator is something that I would love to have. Just out of the cards financially, it's not gonna happen. You need to buy a skid steer. Honestly, a skid steer with a forestry mulcher on the front of it is what I want to have the most right now. I would love to just snap my fingers and if I could change one thing, boom, a skid steer with a forestry mulcher. But again, way out of budget, and I completely understand why everyone recommends them. I'd love to have one too. Completely understand that. Oh, the sun. And then why I went with a tractor instead. I had a hard budget of $30,000 to invest into a tractor or some piece of equipment that would be my MVP during all of this. And ultimately I settled on a 35 horsepower compact tractor. All right, 100 acres is a tremendous amount of land. This isn't 100 acres of row crop. It's not monocrop agriculture. I'm not doing things that you would typically see a tractor do on a farm. This is 100 acres, but realistically speaking, I don't think that tractor will ever touch 80% of all of this land. So it's a lot of trail work, a lot of moving stuff around. I'll get into a full video on that specific tractor because some people have asked questions about it in a future tool talk that I'll probably record here soon, honestly, because there's some very specific reasons why I purchased that particular tractor. And I want to get into that. So also, why a tractor and not one of these other pieces of equipment? Well, I could afford, with that $30,000 budget, I could have gotten a used skid steer with no implements, just a bucket, that I would have to trust somebody else's maintenance record. And then when crap hits the fan, which any piece of equipment, any piece of equipment, crap does hit the fan. It's already happened twice on my tractor, completely my fault. I'll get into that in another video. Nothing bad, by the way. So when repair costs come, repairing a tractor is, generally speaking, a lot less than repairing a skid steer. So less cost for maintenance and repairs down the road, less fuel consumption. Of course, then again, you're getting a lot of work done faster with a skid steer. But also the availability of implements at a better price for all those implements versus the skid steer. And then my local ecosystem with what we've got going on here. My wife's family has a 270 acre family compound of connected parcels where we're camping right now. And They all have tractors. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 tractors up there. One smaller than ours, and the other 4 are much larger than ours. So there's 3 uncles that are in the vicinity. All 3 are tractor guys. So we have a community of people who are very knowledgeable on tractors. If something does happen, I have a fallback or resource to help me out a little bit. And then also we have this community of implements for the tractor. The rotary cutter that I've been using is not mine. It's one of my wife's uncles that he's just been so awesome to let me borrow. I've used their disc, not to actually disc stuff up, but I used it for counterbalance. So we have access to other implements by going with a tractor versus a skid steer. Yeah, that's all of it. But the primary thing there is budget. Tractor, brand new tractor with warranty that does everything that it needed to do versus a used skid steer without a warranty and high hours. Tractor. So this next section is the last part of my 2 pages of notes here, and it's titled Big Business versus Big Life. Are you going to get 3-phase power? Why all the trails? Why do you want so much land? No, we're not going to get 3-phase power because of all of this want for all this land. We're focusing on big life, not big business here. I've said from the very beginning of my online business repeatedly that my number one goal for my online business, media, Jay's Custom Creations, whatever it evolves into, number one has always been to do what I want to do every single day. Be in full control of my schedule, in full control of what I want to do. Number 2, present that in such a way that it generates just enough income for me to support my family and live the lifestyle that I want to live. That's it. Now that breaks down into all kinds of other stuff, but ultimately I want to do what I want to do and do it in such a way that it generates enough revenue for my family. There's several paths that I could have taken with maybe creating an online school, all kinds of different stuff that would have generated more revenue, and we've explored a couple of those. Fun fact, I created an online woodworking school. It's the website's still there. It's jbsow.com, jbatesschoolofwoodworking.com. Both of those redirect to the same website. I spent several $100s using a LMS, learning management system, to where you can create your own online school and you don't have to go through any other place like Udemy or any of the other ones. And wanted to create my own school, started it, got all the infrastructure done, and every single time it came to creating the courses, I'm like, it's just not where my heart is. It's not what I want to do. So I wasted quite a bit of money getting all that going and never pursued it, because I want this instead. I want my day-to-day routine to directly and positively impact my life and my family. And if that means less money, well, that means less money. Now, I hustled big time in my 20s. I'm 37 years old now. So I hustled big time in my 20s to be able to afford all this stuff. But this is it. We're not rich by any means. We've established enough equity to be able to make this major life change. We have a couple small investments, but we're nowhere near millionaires. We're just normal people in control of our lives, right? So that's why we're doing all this. That's why all the trails exist, for my own personal enjoyment. That's progress. Can't yell at the guy for making noise. That's why all the trails exist. That's why we wanted 100 acres. That's why we pursued this land close to our family. That's why we chose this land with a creek. Personal enjoyment. We want this lifestyle. I grew up outside. I was born in 1986. So I grew up outside. If it wasn't raining, I was outside playing or playing outdoor sports. And of course, video games. I was young when Nintendo came out and all that stuff. When it was raining, yeah, we played video games inside. But it wasn't the screen addiction that is going on like it is right now, right? And then I'm part of that last generation that grew up without the internet, and definitely, I gotta sneeze, hold on. We grew up definitely without cell phones, but internet started to creep into the house, and when I was 14 or 15, we had AOL dial-up. You all remember that? Some of you may remember that. So the last generation of not being glued to the screen. I was always an outdoors person, and over the past couple years, we went camping a tremendous amount. And I'm like, this solidified, like this is where we want to be. Let's make this lifestyle change to where we can get the joys of camping 24/7, 365. So that's why we're doing this. Big life versus big business. Yada, yada, yada. So that brings me to a post that a friend of mine posted on Facebook, Zach from Back 40 Customs. He posted this on Facebook, and it said, 1 year from now, your life could look completely different. Put in the work. And that was a recent post. I saw that, I just chuckled because that's exactly the path we're on. 1 year ago, our life was totally different. We were comfy, right? Not rich by any means, but our income was always more than our expenditures, and we generally didn't live a lavish lifestyle at all, right? So if you can maintain your spending, or keep your spending in check your whole life, you can have financial freedom. And that's what it was for us, was maintaining a big reality check on our spending, so we didn't really have to hustle and lose all these wonderful years of our lives busting our butt for money. So 1 year from now, your life could look completely different. Put in the work. We did. Our life had a level of comfort that kind of turned into complacency and lack of adventure. So I stumbled upon another quote that I really, really love, and it's, if not now, when? Like when? Answer the question, when? Put a date to it. You can't just keep saying, in the future, I'm going to do this. Put a date to it. Tomorrow never comes. You can't always say, tomorrow I'll get to this, tomorrow I'll get to that, because tomorrow never comes. It's always today that you're in, and today where you're making the decisions. Now you can say, you know, today is January 28th when I'm June 28th when I'm recording this. You can say on June 30th I will do this. That's technically the future, but at least you're being concrete about it, specifically stating a day. So if not now, when? So I read that a year or so ago, and I'm like, we got to make this life change. And that's when the ball started to roll. So here we are a year later, and we're not quite fully through with this phase of the equity shift that I call this, but we're getting close there. So I'll end this video by asking you, if you've got something that you really want to change, if you got something that you really, really want to do, if not now, when? Answer that question. Challenge yourself to answer that question. Put it down, write it down, and hold yourself to it. Change your life. So many people, I see it all around me, so many people settle for the norm of just getting by, and everybody is capable of way more than that. Sorry, I don't want this to turn in all preachy or anything, but challenge yourself. You're capable of more, and everybody is. Everybody is. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I think that's the end of this update. It's lunchtime. I got to go back and cook for the family, so I'm probably going to set up a time lapse to see the rest of these trees go down. You guys take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.